We all know stories about the Boogeyman. Things vary from orator to orator, but for the most part, there are a few things that match up. The strongest being that he's most powerful at nighttime, and you never see him coming. The Boogeyman sends chills down young children's spine and even makes grown adults run as fast as they can up the stairs after turning the light off. But the Boogeyman isn't actually real, right? During a period from the late 1960s into the early to mid 1970s, a man wearing an executioner's hood and a crosshair emblazoned on his chest terrorized young couples in Northern California. By the end of the Reign of Terror, there were 5 confirmed murders, but the number is more likely closer to 30, and even claimed by the killer himself to be exactly 30. The scariest part, to this day, he's never been caught. This man might just be the closest thing that we have to a real Boogeyman. His name? The Zodiac Killer.
Welcome to the Skeptaholics Podcast, your source for all things conspiracy, true crime, unexplained, and unsolved. All we ask is that you keep an open mind and always question everything.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Skeptaholics Podcast, another episode. Today we have a great true crime episode for you about the Zodiac Killer. My name is Jamie, and I'm 1/3 of this podcast, and I'm here as always with the second third of the podcast, Paul. What's going on, man?
How's it going?
And rounding us out and keeping us grounded is our resident logical third of the podcast, producer Bill, the star of the show.
Oh, yeah. How's it going, everybody?
All right, so another episode. We're getting on to some true crime this time
instead
of all the scientific stuff. So for dummies like me, that makes me excited.
And if you guys can't tell, we're experiencing some technical difficulties. We've spent the last hour and a half almost struggling trying to get all of our audio worked out. And I mean, Jamie and I both got new microphones within the last 2 weeks to try to improve our audio a little bit. And it seems this week we're plagued more with connection issues than anything else. You can kind of see that in Jamie's video output, but we can only work with what we got. So we're going to make the best of what we can. We apologize, but it'll be what it'll be, I guess. So we got the Zodiac Killer this week, boys. I'm kind of amped for this.
I'm excited. I mean, I made a joke before about, dummies like me being excited about not so much scientific stuff, but honestly, I mean, I like this kind of stuff a little bit more than stuff like CERN and the Mandela effect and stuff, even because this is more like you can put this into perspective for people because it actually did happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
I mean,
no question.
When we all started talking about doing this podcast together, that's why we wanted to throw a lot of the true crime and the mystery and the unexplained, unsolved shit into there, is so that we weren't just bombarding people with conspiracy after conspiracy after conspiracy week to week. We wanted to bring you guys a good mix of stuff.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I do want to start this episode off with kind of a disclaimer. So, with this being a true crime episode, per Twitch guidelines, I could not find anything about the depiction of gore. So, we do have pictures from the crime scenes. There are going to be sites that may be uneasy for people to look at. But with that being said, we did leave out a lot of the bodies just because we don't want to try to catch a ban on Twitch. So there's going to be bullet holes, there's going to be blood, there's going to be stuff like that, but there's not going to be any bodies in any of the picture. Some people are into that sort of thing, some people aren't, but I wanted to just kind of give everybody a fair take and let them know that there may be some things that they might not want to see, and this is kind of a adults only kind of episode.
Well, and even just in general, not even just the videos or the pictures too, even just the stuff that we're describing.
Yes.
I try not to go into too much detail, but I'm sure we're going to hit on a few things of, so if you've got some kind of issue with that kind of stuff, just be warned. We'd be remiss if we left that stuff out of our talking points, because it kind of hammers home the brutality and the reality of cases like this.
Totally.
Yes, it does.
So,
I got to get my little concoction going here before we get started too, but in true fashion that we've been kind of holding to, last week we talked about those mysterious, I don't know what you want to call them, I forget what we referred to them as last week, but the ruins or the
monolith.
The monolith, thank you. Two more popped up this week.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty interesting.
There was one in Romania and there was one in California that popped up, and they haven't disappeared yet. The one that was in Utah has disappeared.
The one in Romania, I thought did.
Did it? I haven't seen anything.
I thought I heard the one in Romania.
It's a possibility. I'm not discounting that, but yeah, we saw that come through this week, so we figured we'd give you guys an update on that. I was cruising around the internet last night and I saw somebody make a joke about it. Oddly enough, they triangulated the location of the 3 different monoliths between Romania, California, and Utah, and they had said, somebody send fucking help, because the Bass Pro Shops pyramid in Las Vegas, Nevada is right in the middle of all 3 of them.
They're coming for the Bass Pro Shop. We gotta arm up now.
So, but that's that. Without further ado, I guess we'll let Pants take it away with the intro to the Zodiac Killer here, and we're gonna do a little bit different format tonight. You're gonna see Jamie and I kind of go back and forth, rather than him do a read and then I'll do a read and cap off the episode. The way we broke it up, he's going to do one, I'm going to do one, and it's going to take it through a chronological order down to the end. So we're just trying out some new stuff, see how it works. You guys let us know what you think.
Yeah, I'm the one that's having mainly the issues with my connection and stuff, so I just want to let you know I'm not watching chat on Twitch tonight. I think my computer will literally burn alive.
Yes, probably.
So I'm struggling right now, but we'll give it a shot. So we can start here with the Lake Hermann Road murders. The Lake Hermann Road murders were the first confirmed attacks by the infamous Zodiac Killer. The 2 victims were David Faraday, age 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, age 16. They were both high school students at Hogan High School. They were out on their first date, actually.
We lost you there.
Uh-oh.
He might have actually crashed.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, he's completely frozen on my end.
Yep, mine too. No audio, no nothing.
Okay. Paul, do you want to start doing your read and maybe we can backtrack to him, or is this a chronological order sort of thing that's gonna?
It's a chronological. It'll be kind of hard to do.
Gotcha.
We'll see what Kayla's got here for us. She can. Yeah, he just bailed out.
Yeah, I just crashed out.
Like I said, guys, we're sorry about this. We haven't really run into much of an issue with this yet. And I don't know if it's just the season or what, but we seem to be absolutely plagued with issues tonight.
You guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep, there he is.
Okay. I could hear you guys perfectly fine. I don't know what happened.
Oh, that was weird. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird.
Okay. Well, should we try it again?
Try it again.
Yeah. Take it away, Pants.
All right. Recap. The Lake Hermann Road murders were the first confirmed attacks by the infamous Zodiac Killer. The two victims, David Faraday, age 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, age 16. They were high school students at Hogan High School, and they were on their first date together. This was December 20th, 1968. I found some conflicting reports on whether they actually went to this restaurant or not, but they had plans to go to a restaurant called Mr. Ed's, which I guess touches life in the 60s. You go to the diner for a shake and some...
Hold on a minute.
A grape snow cone or something.
Hold on a minute. You got the Lake Hermann Road murders there? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yep.
You're good.
Okay.
I noticed a similarity and I thought it was farther apart with the next one that I'm doing. So I thought maybe something got crossed there, but no, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So again, I'm not sure if they actually went to this restaurant or not. I found some reports that said they did, and some reports said they never made it there. But at some point, either before or after, they decided to stop off onto the unlit two-lane road called Lake Hermann Road. This is the 60s, and this is what they did. They would go and smooch a little bit, and maybe some other things.
Canoodling.
I believe is what the Mormons call it.
What was that? You cracked out when you said that?
I said sulking, I believe, is the Mormons call it.
There you go.
I'm glad you guys caught that one. That was kind of a deep pull there.
Yes.
So it was at this point that the couple was attacked. So shortly after 11 p.m., the bodies of the two were found by a woman named Stella Borges, who lived nearby. So utilizing forensic data, it's believed that while the two were in the car in the dark, another car, I believe they were in a Rambler, I believe was the car they were in, and reports of an Impala, I believe, or some car like that, pulled up next to them and ordered them out of the car, or they tried to run. They said that forensic evidence showed they were ordered out of the car. I guess I don't really understand how you see that, but I'm also not a forensic anything. So
I think
you got signs of struggle and footsteps, footprints, that sort of thing.
Yeah. If they were ordered out of the car, I mean, imagine somebody coming up to you at gunpoint and saying, "Get out of the car." Much like if you were wanted by the police, they would do the same thing.
Yeah, I guess my only like discrepancy there was, I guess, who's to say that he didn't pull out the gun and they just ran? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
How do you know they? Anyways, whatever. They tried to escape. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Jensen appeared to have exited the car first. However, Faraday was actually shot in the head while he was getting out, and I'm assuming they found him kind of like hanging out of the car when they came across the scene. And Jensen was then shot 5 times in the back as she fled. Her body was found approximately 28 feet from the car. So seems kind of
like she tried to run, at least.
Yeah. So it sounds like she got away a little bit. Yeah, I mean, so there's a ton of information about this one because it's the first one, and there was a bunch of like forensic measures and stuff that I found, but I just feel like I shouldn't have just bored everybody with that kind of stuff. To be honest, a lot of it was bullet casings found here and there, and it seemed kind of redundant.
I've got some images that we can pull up.
Yeah. Perfect.
And kind of give people an idea. In those images, there is on the page itself I'm running through trying to save some more right now just so that I don't really have to worry about showing the body that's covered by the body bag. But of course that's a PNG file. I had a lot of issues, so what we'll do is I'll just pull this over quick. I'll switch back to a window capture. Or back to a display capture. And what we'll do is I'll pull this over and I'll just try to skip by the body quick. But this depicts the heading artwork depicts the killer coming up to their Rambler. Here's a Rambler with David Faraday's body outline. And different images you can see here. They got all the forensic markers out and stuff. And get by the body quick. There's
I mean, to me, it doesn't really seem like, it doesn't really say much. I don't think it's ever explained. I don't think he ever like admits to it in a letter or anything, but it almost seems to me like they were stalked.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
Like, I feel like
being out in the middle of nowhere like that.
Well, and I feel like they were the odds are better that they were followed versus like he was just sitting on this road waiting for somebody to come down there. Because you know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
Well, and everything that I found, it kind of shows, and here you can see the two cars 10 feet apart, and Betty Lou Jensen's body was back there by the dot. There was another image that I had found that showed, here it is, a little bit better how far away from the car she actually was. But in everything that I had found when researching this myself, stated that the Zodiac Killer targeted young couples who were kind of guilty of what we'll call sex crimes against the biblical definition of how couples should interact. Premarital sex, so forth, so on. And I don't know, I know you were kind of pressed for time, but to give kind of a lead up into it, from my understanding, the Zodiac Killer's reasoning for all of his murders was that he was trying to collect slaves for the afterlife. And for some reason, the couples correlated together with that. So it's kind of... Obviously, his reasoning is out there, I guess, for lack of better terms, but it does seem like he did target them more than it was just sitting by waiting for a chance happening.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's definitely nuts. Like, we'll get that far.
Certifiable.
You know, I mean, to be a murderer, a serial murderer in general, but I mean, this guy's more than one screw loose.
Yeah.
Of course.
You know.
So, do you have any more on Lake Hermann?
No, not. I mean, like I said, it was like a mountain of information to kind of sift through, and so much of it was just like, yeah, there was tire tracks that were 10 inches by this, and then it just didn't really seem relevant, I guess.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Got a lot to cover anyway, so.
Yeah. So.
Right.
Blue Rock Springs. On the night of July 4th, 1969, Michael Magew and Darlene Farron pulled into the parking lot of the Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, California, shortly before midnight. The park was approximately 4 miles from the Lake Hermann murder site, and the night was almost 7 months after the Lake Hermann murders. Upon pulling in, Michael says Day turned off the headlights and motor, but left the radio play. Minutes after pulling into the parking lot, Darlene and Michael would have 3 cars join them, filled with boisterous youngsters celebrating Independence Day. The next 5 minutes saw the rapid lighting off of fireworks, followed by the 3 cars leaving. Shortly after the youngsters left, another car came pulling in. Michael recounts that it came from the direction of Vallejo, and the driver turned the lights off as he pulled onto the left side of their car, about 6 or 8 feet away, and sat there for a minute before leaving. He asked Day if she knew who it was, and she replied, "Oh, never mind them." According to Michael's statement, about 5 minutes later, the same brown car, thought to be either a Chevy Corvair or Ford Mustang, returned. This time it had pulled up to the right rear of the car and stayed about 10 feet back from the rear of their vehicle. Michael said that this time the driver got out of the car, carrying a high-powered flashlight, like the kind you carry by a handle. He was armed with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The driver approached their vehicle. Michael believed he may be a police officer because of the demeanor he conducted himself in. The man asked the two for identification, and while they began to retrieve it for him, he raised the gun without a word and fired 5 rounds into the couple at point-blank range through the passenger side window. Michael stated he heard a muffled sound, assuming the pistol may have had a silencer of some sort on it. Reports later stated the weapon matched one of many at the time, including some well-known firearm producers like Browning and Smith & Wesson, as well as some not known in modern times, like Husqvarna and Llama. It was confirmed that the ammunition used was 9mm Winchester Western ammunition, confirmed by the casings found at the scene. As the attack began, George Bryant, the son of a caretaker at Blue Rock Springs Park, was in bed at his house, located just 800 feet from the parking lot. He would recall these details. He could hear laughing and a few firecrackers being shut off, but he couldn't see anybody. At approximately midnight, he heard what appeared to be a gunshot. This was much louder than any of the firecrackers. A short time later, he heard what appeared to be another gunshot. After another short pause, he heard rapid fire of what appears to be gunshots. He then heard a car taking off at super speed, and it burned rubber and was squealing its tires as it sped along the road. He wasn't sure of its direction of travel. He didn't check, as it was the 4th of July, and he thought it was just somebody, quote-unquote, celebrating. The fact that George Bryant seemingly heard gunshots tends to negate the premise that the weapon had a suppressor attached. The more reasonable suggestion being that Michael Maggie was temporarily deafened by the first gunshot being so close to his head. You guys got anything?
That would make more sense.
Yeah,
that makes much more sense.
Like him putting on a silencer, after a shot or two.
Well, and especially at that time, you'd have to think that silencers weren't readily available. I mean, granted, we're after the 1984 Gun Act that prohibits a lot of things without a tax stamp, but at that time, with how readily available they are today, I can't see them being that easy to get a hold of either.
Yeah, I wouldn't. If I'm being 100% honest here, boys, if you had asked me when silencers were invented, I would have said after 1968.
And I don't know enough about them to.
Sure, I'm sure I'm way wrong on that, and somebody's gonna fucking roast me. 1912, but to me, it's more of a modern thing. So I wouldn't even have thought that they had access to them back then.
Yeah. So the difference in the number of gunshots as remembered by Bryant and Maggie is a focal point of the investigation. But what was cleared up is that 9 casings were in fact found on scene. 7 of the casings were outside the passenger side of the car, and 2 on the back floorboard of the vehicle. The first 2 responding officers on scene were Richard Hoffman and Ed Rust. They had arrived to find Maggie on his back laying outside an open door of the car, and Darlene was seen motionless behind the steering wheel of the car. Ed had tried to ask Darlene what happened, but he could not understand her mumbles as she clung to life due to the severity of her injuries. But what, I don't understand how I wrote it. Anyway, they were rushed to the hospital. However, Darlene's condition plummeted, and she crashed on the way to the hospital. The ambulance crew attempted resuscitation, but sadly she was pronounced dead upon her arrival to the hospital at 12:38 a.m. July 5th. Michael somehow luckily survived despite taking the brunt of the attack. So I had actually watched a video while I was researching this one, and it had both Hoffman and Rust on the video, as well as Michael himself. And I mean, this dude is a fucking crackpot when you watch this video. He is fucking out there, okay?
Yeah.
I'll send you guys the link to the page after the podcast, and if anybody in chat wants the link, I can post it up in chat for you. But he is fucking left field, and with what happened to him, he was 19 years old when this happened, and Darlene,
it's a pretty traumatic thing to go through, so.
Yeah, Darlene, I think, was 22.
Okay.
So one of the coolest things about that video, though, is Richard Hoffman rode in the ambulance with both Michael and Darlene on their ride to the hospital. They had to have somebody there in case they came to enough to recount anything that happened to notate the evidence. He said that when they lost her, one of the things that he did notice and kind of knew that he wasn't going to get anything out of her was the fact they obviously had her shirt cut open. And when she crashed, they were doing CPR. And he said that he could see the paramedic every time that he would give Darlene a breath. There was a fiber on the side of her bra that would flutter with his breath going through her lung every time he tried to give her one. So they kind of knew that she wasn't coming back and they weren't going to get anything.
Yeah, that's not good.
No. They also...
Sucking chest wound, I believe is what they call that.
Yeah. So another thing that they had said is Hoffman got there before Rust did. Rust was newer to the force and he was riding with somebody else. And Hoffman was tending to Michael and nobody was really doing anything about Darlene. They pretty much figured she was well beyond gone anyway. The fact that she was able to mumble anything to Ed Rust was kind of a miracle. But he did say that when he walked up to Hoffman and Michael, that Michael was pointing at Ed and he was kind of gurgling, trying to get something out. And like I said, luckily enough, he survived so that he was able to tell his side of the story, even though, as we know, with this being one of the greatest cold cases ever, nothing ever came from it.
Yeah.
So according to Michael, he and his twin brother Steve had both dated Darlene, who was already married to their friend, who was also named Steve, who cooked it at a diner that Darlene worked at. According to Michael, Steve knew that Darlene was dating both Michael and his twin brother Steve, and that she planned to leave him to marry Michael. I'm waiting for a Pants reaction here. I thought that was going to get one.
I mean,
still, bro. I mean,
yeah, that's a weird little love triangle there.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, you have fraternal twin brothers who are dating the same woman, and she's married to their best friend, and he knows what's going on, and just, okay, whatever.
Is that like
I bet you they went to Woodstock together.
Probably. What was that, Pants?
That's like, we call that all in the family?
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay.
An assailant claiming to be the Zodiac Killer called police from a payphone located about 10 minutes from the shooting at approximately 12:40 a.m. and as he admitted responsibility to the murder, no other suspects in my investigation of the incident alone were listed. So they never even looked at this dude's husband as a potential suspect, which I thought was weird.
I mean, that's not something they should be doing, right?
Not at all. I mean, here she is letting his two best friends plug her, and he's not going to kill her.
I mean, it's definitely suspect. That's for fucking sure.
Never, not once. But
lustful rage. And before we get too far ahead, I wanted to say that I did find out silencers were invented in 1902 by Hiram Percy Maxim. He didn't gain his patent till 1909. Sorry, Pants, I had to be that guy.
I told you. It's in 1912. So I mean, I wasn't that far off.
Wait, what the hell we have?
But I mean, still, I mean.
Yeah.
What?
Sorry, you guys got a view of my background there for a minute. Shit happens.
I didn't notice anything.
I do have some pictures from the Blue Rock.
Cool.
Here's Michael Magu. And here's Darlene Farron. This is a picture of the park. Kinda today.
If you're trying to show it on stream, it's not showing.
You know why? I done messed everything up here. Give me 1 second.
You done fucked up, Ron?
I did. So So I keep switching back and forth between the window capture and display capture to show this stuff, but so
I'm left out of seeing it anyway. So
here's Michael, here's Darlene, and then if we scroll down, there's a picture of the park here on the right. This is a 1963 Chevy Corvair. It's the car that Darlene was driving. Just some different news clippings here. And here are the two, I don't know if they were detectives or sergeants or beat cops or what at this time, but Ed Rust on the top and Richard Hoffman from the bottom from the 2007 Zodiac documentary. Right here's a kind of a depiction of the alleged Zodiac vehicle and the payphone that he used to call. He was 10 minutes from the murders. Standard Luger pistol, and it goes on. There's a lot of information here. Kind of like what Pan said, there's a lot of in-depth stuff.
Yeah.
That they do cover. So, with that one wraps that one up. You can move on to your next section, Pants.
Okay, so moving on from the first two sets of murders.
I'm going to time you out right there real quick. We did forget to mention at the start of this, there are a few sections from both Pants's research and mine that we pretty much word for worded off of Wikipedia. Because there was so little information, we couldn't rewrite it in our own words, so we're just going to kind of give full credit to Wikipedia on that right now, so we don't have to do it by section.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't one of those sections.
No,
but, yeah.
it just hit me though, so I figured I'd mention it.
Got it, Bill.
Nothing. I'm just taking notes so I can chime in here and there.
So after the first two murders is kind of, this part here is where we get the Zodiac Killer. This is where we get anybody that knows anything about the Zodiac Killer knows about the letters to the newspapers, the ciphers, all that kind of stuff. That's the information that we wanted to put out, or then at least that I want to put in the forefront more so than the size of the tires at the crime scene. So the first letter received from the Zodiac Killer was on August 1st, 1969. So that's about 8 months after the first murders. 3 different newspapers in Northern California received a letter. It was the Vallejo Times Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Murder. These 3 letters took credit for the Lake Herman Road and the Blue Rock Springs murders, and each letter contained 1/3 of a 408 symbol cryptogram in which the killer claimed that if you could solve the cryptogram, you would learn his identity. The killer demanded that these letters be published on the front page of each newspaper, or else, in so many words, he would kill a dozen people by the end of the weekend. I didn't touch on it a ton because it's kind of hard to convey over audio. But this guy's kind of an idiot. I'm gonna be honest. Like this Zodiac guy. He don't spell nothing right. He don't know what punctuation is. He doesn't. And when you're looking at these cryptogram, it looks like a third grader's drawing this stuff.
I do have pictures of the cryptograms.
You have a picture? Okay.
Yes.
So to me, like, it's kind of putting this guy into a category for me. I honestly think this guy is kind of underdeveloped. How's that for a PC term?
So what you're saying is he's Alex Jones.
I mean, at least Alex Jones is entertaining.
Okay, so what you're saying is somebody should buy him a couple of Triceratops for Christmas so he can bash them together while he's talking.
Yes, absolutely. So while Paul's pulling that up, again, he demanded the letters be published on the front page of each newspaper, the reason that made me think about that is I paraphrase that he would kill a dozen people by the end of the weekend. Excuse me. He got a few other things in there, but a lot of the stuff he says is kind of just like, why did you say that? It doesn't make sense, or it doesn't fit with what's going on. It's almost like he tried to make himself sound smarter than he really was in a lot of these letters and things.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the San Francisco Chronicle published its letter on the 4th page of the next day's newspaper. Now, remember, he said he wanted it on the front page of all 3 newspapers. And alongside that publication, there was an article from Vallejo Police Chief Jack E. Stiltz saying that he did not believe the letter was actually from the murderer and asked for more proof that this was actually the truth. So, I mean, they called this guy's bluff, basically. They basically said, yeah, we're not putting it on the front page because we don't think you actually did this. So, I mean, they're playing with fire there. I mean, could you imagine if he actually had then went out and killed a dozen people by the end of the weekend? I mean, that guy'd probably lose his job.
They actually came under a lot of heat. If you watch by the way, there is a movie out on this, just named Zodiac, if I remember right.
Yep.
And
Jake Gyllenhaal, baby.
Yeah, they depict in that movie that the press came under a lot of heat for not meeting his demands. So I'm sure it was a real life scenario where the cops kind of pressured the press and were like, why would you even risk this kind of thing?
Well, yeah, at that point, it's a public safety thing, like, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. Not something that would be done today.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first person to say, like, I'm glad I'm not the person that has to make a decision, because there's a fine line between giving into this guy's demands, so to speak, and then also not getting a dozen people murdered because you couldn't move it up 4 pages, you know? So, I mean, I'm glad I didn't make a decision.
I have ciphers. God damn it.
It's sort of a funny way to look at it, but it's almost like they made a deal with the Zodiac Killer. Like, we don't know if you're legit or not, but we're not going to put you front page. We'll hit you on the 4th page. How about that, bud? And the Zodiac Killer's like, you know what? Maybe I won't go kill 12 people now. I'm still in there.
So I've got ciphers here ready if you're ready for me to pull them over.
Do it.
So here is an example of one of his ciphers. It kind of and mind you, I don't know if Jamie mentioned this or not because I was pulling this up, but there's quite a few of his ciphers that still to this day are unsolved.
Well, and what I mean, is not so much unsolved as they don't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like these people solve them. They make words out of them, but you read them and it's seriously, it's like a 4-year-old wrote them.
Yeah.
I'm calling this guy out. If he's still alive, come do something.
I'm trying to find what here's the one that I saw earlier. So like Jamie said, he doesn't really make sense because this is one of the ones that was solved early. I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing Wood, but he spelled it Wild. Oh, no, it's more fun than killing wild game. I wasn't getting ahead of myself. In the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill something. So, the way he writes it really doesn't make sense. And, I mean, to argue the genius of it, he might have done that intentionally to throw people off, too.
Well, I'm almost wondering if, he's using the Zodiac symbols, obviously, that's where he got his name.
Yeah.
What if there's only so much you can do there, right, to structure a proper sentence using our alphabet mixed with that?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's just part of why he sounds like such a dingleberry, for lack of better words.
A full spectrum of kind of unsolved cipher here. So I'm not even going to try to make sense of that.
Yeah, because there's much more than 26 symbols there. So multiple letters have similar symbols or have separate symbols.
So, you good? You ready for me to move on?
No.
Yeah, go for it.
I was only like halfway through what I'd talk about.
I wasn't sure, so I was asking. Go ahead.
So after the police chief asked for proof that it was actually the truth, on August 7th, so about a week after the first letter was received, another letter was received at the San Francisco Examiner with the heading, "Dear editor, this is the Zodiac speaking." That's where he gets his name, not necessarily the Zodiac signs that you see. Like that, meaning it wasn't given to him from people reading those and seeing Zodiac symbols. It was that he literally said, basically, "Call me the Zodiac." So this was the first time that the name had been attributed to this killer, and it's kind of where we get the name that we call him to this day. This letter was a response to Chief Stilt's request for more information, as the letter contained details of the two murders that were not released to the public, proving that this was the actual killer. And as far as I could understand to this day, those details still haven't been released on what it actually said, from what I could gather. Maybe it is out there. So on the next day is when the cipher was actually cracked by Donald and Betty Harden of Salinas, California. And Paul touched on it a little bit here a few minutes ago, but the entire decoded message as they cracked it reads as follows. It says, "I like killing people because it's so much fun. It's more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill," which is a reference to, I believe it's a short story called The Most Dangerous Game. I know I read it.
They made it into a movie.
Did they?
Yeah. I remember my dad.
I believe the original is a short story, though, isn't it?
It might be. I don't know about that, but I remember my dad talking about it. And essentially what it is this group of guys get sick of hunting wildlife. And correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm going off of what I know of the movie. So they start kidnapping people and setting them loose in tracts of woods that they're unfamiliar with, and they hunt the people.
Yep. Yeah, something along those lines. I feel like I remember it being like a short story. Like I said, I feel like I remember reading it in high school. Something like that. But anyways, that's a reference to that, is what they believe.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Something gives me the most thrilling experience. It's even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and the people that I've killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name, even though he said, if you decode this cipher, you'll find my name. He said, I will not give you my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for the afterlife." And then there's 18 letters at the end of that cipher that when they cracked this cipher, got all these other words. This is what these last 18 letters translated to be. And I'm not even going to say it. I'm just going to tell you the letters because it's not any kind of known language. It's EBEORIETEMETHHPITI. So, I mean, if you were to try to sound it out, it would be like Ebiorite Emeth Petit. So to this day, nobody's figured out what that means. If that was just a screw up with the cipher when they were decoding it, or if that's a code word to him.
You might have to send that to me in text or email or something, because I might want to look into that. What if it's a code within a code? What if it's like one of those word scrambles?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking the same thing. Can you repeat the letters? I know I'm no forensic scientist, but I'm curious.
Yeah, so it's EBEORIETE meth, as in meth, METH, HPITI. So I mean, just a quick glance at it. I mean, I'm not seeing any like a word to make out of that, but again, like Bill said, I'm not a forensic anything either.
Well, and that's just it. If he impacted everything together, it could be a series of words to form a short sentence, even.
Yeah, I was thinking first letter of a word, you know. going on down. But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. So then just to wrap it up there, from what I could gather, the last 18 letters that I had just said of that cipher still have never been solved to this day. Whether it is an anagram or it's a made up language, or if the guy just went off the fucking deep end at the end and just wrote a bunch of letters.
Well, I mean, he obviously went off the deep end before he even fucking started, if we're being honest.
Right. Yeah, I mean, maybe he had some kind of split personality disorder, and that person came in as he was. I don't know. Who knows? But it is part of that cipher, and it was coded into the same cipher that he had wrote before. So something leads me to believe that those 18 letters are of significance. Or maybe, as you were saying before, maybe he is smarter than we all think he is, and he just did that to laugh at us, talking about it 50 years later and going, that doesn't mean anything. You guys are idiots.
Definitely a possibility.
So
you're all good
that
there?
On the first letters from the Zodiac then.
Perfect. I'm gonna move on to, damn it, I need like 6 more screens. This is getting ridiculous.
We need an actual producer.
Yes.
And not just producer Bill.
Yes.
I don't produce anything. I don't get why you still call me that.
Okay,
Inside joke, I guess. I'm the only one in on it.
Okay.
All of chat is in on it now.
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm gonna get my shit together here yet.
Honestly, while he's getting his shit together, I just wanted to say I'm fucking pissed that I can't watch this Twitch chat. Like I feel like I'm disconnected from my people, even though it's like my mom and like 2 other people I don't know.
Dude,
but
take your phone off of Wi-Fi and watch it on your phone.
I'm logged into the Skeptaholics one on Twitch, and I don't know what my login is for Twitch on my personal one.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought about it before, but I'm like,
yeah.
So the Lake Berryessa murders. During the afternoon hours of September 27th, 1969, 2 college students by the names of Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard had sat on the shore of Lake Berryessa for a relaxing afternoon together. Lake Berryessa was a man-made lake north of Napa, California, that attracted many visitors who boated, fished, and picnicked, among other activities. It also held the Berryessa Bowl, which was a popular music venue that featured many of the most popular music artists of the time. By Brian's statement to the police, he accounts that he and Cecilia lay on the shore when she noticed a man lingering in the shade of some nearby trees. The couple paid little attention to the man, however. Moments later, he appeared wearing a bizarre hooded costume with a white cross stitched into the front. This was the mark of the Zodiac Killer. The assailant held the couple at gunpoint as he explained he would be robbing them before making his escape. He bound his victims with clothesline, and just as they thought the ordeal was almost over, the Zodiac Killer attacked them with a foot-long knife. When the attack was over, the stranger walked away and left them for dead. Cecilia fought for her life over the next few days, eventually succumbing to her wounds, but Brian managed to survive. To prove he was responsible, the Zodiac Killer used a black marker to leave his mark on the door of the victim's car. Below the symbol, he left the dates of the 2 previous shootings and added the date of the Lake Berryessa stabbing, September 27th, 69, 6:30 by knife. At 7:40 p.m., the Napa County Police received a phone call from a phone booth located a few blocks away from the police department. The caller reported the murder, stating it was a double murder, and he gave the location of the bodies, as well as the description of the vehicle that the victims were driving. Pardon me. The officer taking the call asked for the caller's location, but the voice grew distant as he stated, "I'm the one who did it." Authorities were able to sketch both the man in the costume from testimony, as well as the man seen lingering in the area on the day of the stabbing. So, I've got a few more pictures here.
So I think, from what I was reading, I think that was one of the only ones that he did with a knife, correct?
Yes.
One of the few.
Yes.
Most of the time it was gun. It was a firearm.
Yes. So this is
So-
Go ahead.
Wait, real quick. So Cecilia died, right?
Yes.
Brian lived.
Yes.
I don't know, man. I'm noticing a pattern. Michael lived and Darlene died.
There were only 2 victims that survived, and
Yep. Those were the only 2.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Michael and Brian were the only 2 victims.
I was gonna say, if this keeps going this way, I discovered something here.
I thought the same thing when I was looking into it too, but yeah, it seems like those are the only 2.
Yeah.
After that, it's a wipeout.
Just carnage, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a sketch picture of the hooded man that killed Cecilia and attempted to kill Brian that night. And then I gotta switch over to my web browser to pull up the other picture. I kind of want to fill this time here quick while I'm doing this. I, in doing my research, had found that there's speculation that Ted Cruz from Texas is a Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, I think I heard that one before.
But
so is Kevin from The Office.
Yeah. It's actually a really wild conspiracy theory, because when you look into it, Ted Cruz was born in Canada in 1970, so there's no way he could have been the Zodiac Killer. But this is, and we'll pull up another sketch of the Zodiac Killer later, but this one is completely contrary to what the other one looks like, which I found really odd. But here is the sketch picture. Go ahead.
From what I had seen, there was a lot of conflict. Like, 2 people would see the same guy, and it would be like not even close descriptions.
Yeah.
And that commonly happened in more than one case.
See, and I didn't get that. The only thing I found is that there is 2 different, and the other one's right here, so I'll put it up. But there is 2 different sketches that the police did of the other guy, but this one is completely different from that. So this is the guy that they sketched that was seen lingering in the shady trees around Lake Berryessa the day of the killings. And then again, like I said, this is the sketching of the costume that he was wearing. But this is, I've actually got a better picture than this, so I'm going to pull this back off and open that. This is a picture of the original sketch of the Zodiac Killer. And they even went as far as doing like a photogenic version of this, which I'm going to bring up next, stating that this is what he would look like. So
So that's an actual photo of somebody they thought would resemble him, or they just curated that?
No, they curated that. That's a actual photogenic drawing done by a sketch artist.
Gotcha.
So that goes to line up with the most popular depiction of the Zodiac Killer anyway.
Fair enough. Oh God, what are you doing? Yeah, come on. Go. You can do it. Come on, Big Jutes. There you go.
He's got to make his appearance every episode.
Yes.
Oh, good boy.
But,
right.
So that wraps up
Unreal.
my section on Lake Berryessa, if you want to move on.
Yep. So the next incident after the Lake Berryessa murders happened 2 weeks later. On October 11th, 1969, a man by the name of Paul Stein was driving his cab through San Francisco when he picked up a white male passenger at the intersection of Mason and Gary Streets. The passenger ended up shooting Stein in the head with a 9mm handgun, took his wallet, car keys, and tore off a piece of Stein's bloodstained shirt. The crime was reported to the police at 9:55 p.m. by 3 teenagers who has observed a man wiping down a cab before walking away. So this was another one of those incidents where a bunch of conflicting reports happened, and I really don't know why. So I'll kind of touch on it, but the teenagers reported this man as like 20 to 25-year-old man, like 5'8" and kind of skinny, like 150 pounds. And after they had called the police, there was 2 officers that responded to the crime from 2 blocks away. And they actually came across that suspect as they were turning the corner on one of the roads. He was walking down the sidewalk. And it was enough of time that the officers remembered this man, and their description of him was 35 to 45 years old, crew cut, 5'10", and 180 plus pounds. And now that's not too big of a discrepancy there, I guess. A couple of inches, a few pounds, a few years. However, the dispatcher had originally alerted responding officers, these 2 officers. I didn't put their names in here, and I should have. But the ones that came across the suspect, that they were looking for an African-American male suspect. So we have no idea where the hell that came from.
What?
That just came like basically out of left field, at least from the information we have access to. Nobody ever told the dispatcher that the guy was African-American, but apparently the dispatcher took it upon themselves to tell the responding officers they were looking for an African-American. So as these officers are rolling up the street, they see this guy and they don't even stop because he's white. I mean, he's neon white. So, and how we know this happened is in a later letter, which I believe Paul has covered in the next little part he has, the Zodiac actually confirmed that this was him. He actually confirmed that the 2 officers, I forgot the exact quote, but something along the lines of that he said something along the lines that, yeah, you would have stopped me, basically, if you drove right past me. And so that's kind of, from what we gather or what we can prove, that was the closest we've ever came to identifying the Zodiac Killer and actually apprehending him. Feet.
And it was all based on misinformation or strictly that 911 operator?
Based on misinformation from the 911 operator to the responding officers. Unreal. Or the responding officers heard her wrong, or let's be honest, it was the 60s.
It was the 60s, yeah.
People were pretty racist. Civil rights movement and whatnot, maybe because I believe it was reported as like a carjacking at first. They believed it was a carjacking. I back the blue, but let's be honest, especially back in the 60s, they might have just assumed it was a black guy.
Yeah.
As sad as it is to say, that could have been it too. They just assumed it was a black man that did it, and they saw a white guy and thought, yeah, white people don't ever do that stuff. When
so
in reality,
he mentioned that in one of his letters later that you guys went right by me.
Yeah, one of the I didn't quite find it, and I didn't want to get too far into it because it kind of delves into the next part that Paul was going to do. Gotcha. But I was listening to a podcast like last week, and they covered it, and I should have actually put it in here. But it was something along the lines of, he actually confirmed in a letter to one of the newspapers that actually did happen. He remembers the 2 officers. He remembered what they looked like because they were so close to him. He said something along the lines of, you were so close or something, or you could have caught me, or you could have stopped me or something like that.
Gotcha.
So the officers report that they were told it was an African-American male by the dispatcher, but people aren't always honest,
So
yeah, fair enough. Fucked up time.
I happen to find the officers' names.
There you go.
It's like Fulke and something, or Fulke and something. don't remember.
So the officers' names were Donald Fook and Eric Zelms.
Mm-hmm.
And
Eric Fook?
Yep, Fook.
F-O-U-K-E?
Yep.
Who the Fook is that guy?
So I can't use the web
Get it?
for this. And I noticed you didn't mention Tashi in this either. At least I didn't catch it if you did. But I believe he was the lead detective on the scene that night.
Yeah, I didn't get too much farther into it.
Gregory Tashi, I think it was. But I absolutely cannot use the pictures on the internet for this one. I have to use the ones that I handpicked. But I'll throw pictures of this up. So, this is the Paul Stein crime scene. This is Tashi standing next to the cab that night. And then, as Jamie mentioned, the killer took a section of Stein's shirt. And in this image, we can see the shirt and how much of it he actually took. He took probably about half of the back of Stein's shirt from the side seams all the way across the back. This one was a really, really gruesome one in comparison to some of the others.
Yeah.
As far as not only execution, but a lot of the photographic evidence that is available out there. When I was looking for pictures to be able to show you guys, there were a few with the body still in it, but none of them were as gruesome as the Paul Stein murder. That was by far the worst to date. As long as I do have this up, I'm going to pull this up. So in my last read about the Lake Berryessa murders, I had referenced the writing on the door. And we have pictures of that. Where is that coming from? Now I got to try to find that also.
Well, hey, really quick, you mentioned it was one of the more gruesome ones. Why was it?
So,
I mean, you can't show the pics. I mean, was it just like a bloody mess, or did he do something to the body after cutting off the shirt?
No,
that's unclear to me.
It was a bloody mess. So the pictures depict Paul Stein laying across the front seat of the cab. It was a gruesome murder. There was a lot of blood. He's hanging halfway out of the passenger door of the car. It wasn't pretty. I ended up finding that and being able to shut it off. It was the 911 call that went in for the Lake Berryessa murders. But
I was curious because of why he cut the back side of his shirt off. And I guess that makes sense now if he was hunched over.
Yeah, no, he wasn't hunched over. When they found Paul Stein, he was laying on his back. Now, mind you, back at that time, a lot of the cars were designed with front bench seats. There wasn't a console with buckets, unless it was more of a sports car. A lot of the full-size family vehicles had two bench seats in them. And the taxi cab had a full bench front seat, and Stein had fallen over onto his back and was laid out across the seat with an arm hanging out of the door.
Gotcha.
But like I said, the Lake Berryessa murders, I had referenced the writing on a door. I do have a picture of that I forgot to show you guys, so I'm going to whip that over here real quick so we can actually see. This is actual handwriting from the Zodiac Killer, and this is the door of their Volkswagen that was in the parking lot that he had wrote that on. So,
still really confused why he cut the backside of his shirt off and why so much of it.
You'll find out. I get to that. If not in this next part, the part after, we do touch on that. We really do need to hire a producer or something.
Fucking hell.
A lot of Atkins.
So I don't want to step on your toes here, Paul, but that part that I was talking about where he kind of confirms that he was almost caught is in the Stein letter. It happens after the letter that they receive after this crime. I don't know if you covered that one. That letter.
I did cover it, but
because that's the one where he talks about the killing the kids on the bus too.
Yeah, I do have that, but I didn't find anything about him saying anything like that. So maybe once I get through the read, you can touch on it a little bit.
Because I have the actual letter right in front of me, a scanned copy of it.
That would be even better. Letter. So I'll touch on it and you fill in the blanks. Okay. So on October 14th, 1969.
There's actually.
Go ahead.
Just quickly, there's actually a really cool website I'm looking at right now. I don't know if you want to maybe pull these up at the end or something. It actually has all 20 of his letters that he wrote scanned as he wrote them on. You can pull them up as like a PDF file and you can look at them.
Okay. What's the website?
Is ZodiacKiller.com.
Okay, I've got Zodiac ciphers up, so I will maneuver that and try to get it while you're filling in the blanks. So on October 14th, 1969, the Chronicle received a letter from the Zodiac, this time containing a swatch of Paul Stein's shirt tail as proof that he was in fact the killer. It also included a threat about killing school children on a bus. To do this, Zodiac wrote, "Just shoot out the front tire and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out." At 2 p.m. on October 20th, 1969, someone claiming to be the Zodiac called the Oakland Police Department, demanding that one of two prominent lawyers, F. Lee Bailey or Melvin Belly, appear on AM San Francisco, a talk show on KGO TV, hosted by Jim Dunbar. Bailey was not available, but Belly did appear on the show. Dunbar appealed to the viewers to keep the lines open, and eventually someone claiming to be the Zodiac called several times and said that his name was Sam. Belly agreed to meet with him, but the suspect never showed up. So I'm going to stop there before I move on so that you can fill in the blanks, and I'm going to pull up that website.
Okay, so if you go to zodiackiller.com/letters, it'll pull you up hyperlinks of all 20 of the letters that they have scanned. I mean, this guy is a scrub, dude. I mean, you can't even read his writing.
Yeah, if I do that, it won't show it. I'm going to have to try to backdoor it through the main site. Okay, I got it. Yeah, that's dog shit.
Yeah, it's bad. And it's like all smudged and everything. So did you find the actual Stein letter?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So
if you go ahead.
No, you go ahead. By all means.
Okay. So yeah, if you read it says, let me pull this over here. This is the Zodiac speaking. I am the murderer of the taxi driver over by Washington Street and Maple Street last night. To prove this, here is a bloodstained piece of his shirt, which kind of answers your question, Bill. That seems to be why he took a shirt, because he was being questioned. You know, when he would send these letters in, he was being questioned.
Oh, we lost him again. Shit. Anyway, I'll try to pick it up from there, and if he bounces back in, if he has anything to add, he can add to it. His legitimacy was being questioned when he was sending these previous letters. So when he killed Paul Stein, he pulled that piece of the shirt from the scene and started mailing pieces of the shirt in to prove that it was legitimately him that was doing these. So,
well, you're right. That answers my question. That's why he took such a big piece of it, because he wanted to do it to multiple. Gotcha.
Oh, he's back.
Pants is back.
Yep.
What the hell?
So
the whole time you guys were good. Your videos were good. Your audios were good. On my screen, my video and audio were good. I know this is wild. I don't get this.
Comes with the biz, right?
Yeah,
I guess. That's showbiz, baby.
We're destined to not have a perfect show. Last week would have been it if we would have had our audio on, but
unreal.
What are we gonna do?
Hey, we're in the beginning stages. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So you guys kind of touched on it. That answered your question then, Bill, right? Why he took, because I mean he was being questioned, right? Like he was sending these letters, and the police chief was like, "Yeah, right. Prove it. You won't do it." And so he's like, "All right, motherfucker. Like I'm gonna start taking trophies then." You know what I mean?
Yep.
So in the letter, it goes on here. This is the part that I was kind of referring to. I guess it's maybe not as black and white as I had made it sound, but here's what he said. He said he took the bloodstained piece of his shirt. He said, "I'm the same man who did in the people in the North Bay area." And then he said, "The San Francisco police could have caught me last night if they had searched the park properly. Instead of holding road
races with their motorcycles."
Yeah. With seeing who could make the most noise. The car drivers, I think, should have just polished their cars and sat there quietly waiting for me to come out, park their cars, and
Paul, can you pull that up so I can read it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read it because Scary Larry's got some fucked handwriting like this, and I'm kind of a pro at reading this shit. So I'll if you want,
I have bad handwriting. I can't do that. We're trying to read this.
Just real quick, did you say Scary Larry?
Yeah, that's how we refer to my father.
Larry.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then at the end is when he talked about the kids.
So anyway, it says the car drivers should have just parked their cars and sat there quietly waiting for me to come out of the corner. School children make nice something.
It's bad.
It is. I will pull it over when I'm done. It looks like it says school children make nice thoughts. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning, just shoot out the front tire, and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out.
It says targets. It's TARG with a dash, like he's going to the next line.
Attaboy. You know it's bad when you have the three of us sitting here trying to fucking decipher what the fuck this says. But
unreal.
It's not even a cipher. It's English words.
Here it is.
Like, what are you doing? So that's the letter that they kind of believe that it proves that those cops did run into him that night.
Yeah.
And that because of whatever, racism or miscommunication, whatever you want to call it.
Well, and it's not so much it's not so much proving that he was the guy walking down the street, but from the way he makes it sound in the letter is he was sitting there watching everything unfold. And if they would have waited long enough and not kind of been in such an uproar, they easily could have had him.
Yeah.
So I'll pull that back off and I'll switch this back and we will continue on then. So it says on November 8th, 1969, the Zodiac mailed a card with another cryptogram consisting of 340 characters. The 340 character cipher has never been decoded. Numerous possible solutions have been suggested, but none can be claimed as definitive. On November 9th, 1969, the Zodiac mailed a 7-page letter stating that 2 policemen stopped and actually spoke with him 3 minutes after he shot Stein. So there, it does go to prove that he was that gentleman. Excerpts from the letter were published in the Chronicle on November 12th, including the Zodiac's claim that same day. Officer Don Fook wrote a memo explaining what happened the night of Stein's murder. On December 20th, 1969, Exactly 1 year after the murders of David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, the Zodiac mailed a letter to Belly that included another swatch of Stein's shirt. The Zodiac said he wanted Belly to help him. So, I mean, if you guys aren't picking up on this, whether this dude was a genius and doing a lot of this stuff to dupe people, or he was a complete fucking moron, at this point, he is absolutely fucking toying with law enforcement across multiple agencies.
Not only that, he's fucking with 100%. The entire, public at that point. He's just messing with people's heads.
Yeah.
It seems like his MO.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it seems like that's what he gets off on.
Yep.
Yeah. Not only the murdering people and shit, but yeah, let's fuck with them after too.
Right.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what he says can be taken that way. Even like, I touched on it a little bit earlier, but even like a little bit later when he talks about how he's killed 37 people and, things like that. I mean, a lot of it could just be fabricated just to get a reaction out of people. I mean, he could be just that screwed up in his head,
I was going to kind of touch on
obviously
that.
He's screwed up in his head.
I was going to kind of touch on that here too, but the one thing that leads me to believe that he's not fabricating as much as he kind of leads us on to believe, or as much as others would like us to believe, is the fact that he does have evidence like the cop stopping and talking to him that only he would know if he were the killer. He does give enough snippets of that fine detail that nobody else would know to kind of say, hey, well, only the killer would know that.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that you can't really make up. Like, how do you, because I believe that they even like tested that shirt and it matched Paul Stein. Like the shirt, the blood, like everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, how would he get that? You
can't.
If he didn't actually cut it off of him.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, totally. Unless Ross the boss brings up a good question. Could have been an officer himself.
Well, and that's kind of one of the theories that comes along the whole time. Not to get too far off topic, but that's kind of what happened with the Golden State Killer that they actually recently just caught. I mean, he was a police officer.
He actually referenced that right after. So the Golden State Killer was a cop himself and got fired, and that's why he went on his little rampage.
Yeah, the Golden State Killer was in the Navy, I believe, and then also a police officer. So, I mean, that would give somebody. I mean, not accusing anybody, but I mean, who's to say that that's not why the description of the African American man came out? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
there you go.
Especially back then, there's so much less ways to prove things than there is now with all technology that we have. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. But that wraps up my section. If you want to move on.
Okay. All right. So the next incident here, it's going to start off kind of a little bit. You're going to think like, oh, what the hell does this have to do with anything? But bear with me. So the next incident is referred to as the Kathleen Johns report. So Kathleen Johns was driving from San Bernardino to, I'm going to say Petaluma is what sounds right. I'm not from California, so.
Pomonia.
Roast me, I guess.
Pomonia, California.
No, it's definitely, that's not what was on the report. It's Petaluma.
Just speculating because my mom's from Pomona and everyone pronounces it wrong.
Okay, well, either way, someplace in California. I don't know. That's not really relevant to the story as much. So she was heading there to visit her mother on the night of March 22nd, 1970. 7 months pregnant, and also had a 10-month-old daughter in the car with her. While she was on her drive, a car pulled up behind her and began honking its horn and flashing its lights until she pulled off the road and stopped. As she stopped, the man then parked behind her and approached the car, stating that his reasoning was that he noticed the right rear wheel was wobbling and that he would tighten the lug nuts for her. Now, it's a different time in 1970. Like, have some self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I mean, you got to understand, people were a lot more friendly back then, too.
Yeah.
I guess. And that's before my time. So Sure. I mean, 1970 is a long time ago.
Well, the way I look at it is the equivalent of like the neighbors going over, hey, can I get a cup of sugar? When the fuck has that happened to any of you ever?
I feel
that's
like
definitely not a thing that happens today.
I feel like your exaggeration on the 70s being a long time ago was a direct attack at some of our parents who may be watching. I'm not going to specifically mention any names, but
there's 100%
I mean,
a complete dig.
But you also have to look at the fact that at the leading into the 70s, we're coming off the tail end of the hippie movement and the peace and love, and we're still riding that wave. And you know, even look at something that we're familiar with, like trucking. Trucking well through the 80s was a lot more friendly than it is in comparison to today's world.
Yeah.
You know, you still had drivers who were drivers. They weren't steering wheel holders. You still had drivers who, if they saw a guy parked on the shoulder of the road in oncoming traffic, they would go up, find a way to turn around, go back and see if there was a way they could help them out. It was a lot more along the lines of being accepted and not so much a danger back then.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say I wish we'd do more like that today, but I guess it also puts you at more of a risk for the cop at a serial killer, right?
Yeah. I mean, good luck catching me. You're going to catch a bad case of lead poisoning if that's the case, but...
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I might let somebody try, because, I mean, can you imagine somebody even just trying to, like, drag me across the yard? Like, it's just not going to happen.
I'd pay to see that.
Paul's you better bring your big friends, because, like...
Paul's low-key shouting out his shirt right now.
No, not at all. Not at all. You know, but, I mean, let's face it, in today's world, that is definitely something that curbs that kind of behavior. You know, 45 ACP travels at 1,700 feet per second, and the cop's average response time is 10 minutes. You tell me which one you're going to feel more comfortable with. There
you go. I think the Zodiac agrees with you.
Yeah. Ironically. So I mean, the guy pulled her over, essentially said that her right wheel was wobbling, and he tried to lug nuts for her. She agreed to it. So after finishing up, the man took off, right? Happy ending. Not so fast, because as Kathleen pulled back onto the road, her right rear wheel fell completely off. Ta-da! The guy didn't fix it, obviously. Yep. So of course, then the same man comes pulling back up and says, "I'll give you a ride to the nearest service station for help." Funny, huh? Yeah. So during the ride, the man passed several service stations without stopping at any of them, driving for about 90 minutes. He drove around on a bunch of back roads, eventually coming to a stop at an intersection. And throughout this whole drive, Kathleen kept questioning him about, like, why aren't you stopping, whatever, and he kept changing the subject. So never really giving her an answer, but not actually stopping. So he finally came to a stop at an intersection, and Kathleen actually took that time. She took advantage of it, and her daughter jumped out of the car and ran into a field. The man then searched for them and threatened to hurt them, but eventually he gave up and drove off. So it doesn't sound too much like anything to do with the Zodiac, right? I mean, it sounds kind of like a coincidence. Well, where the connection lies is that when Kathleen went to the police station to give her statement to the police, she noticed a sketch of Paul Stein's killer on the wall, the one that they had made from the eyewitness accounts, and instantly recognized him as the man that had abducted her and her daughter. I mean, supposedly it was like the second she saw it, she said, "That's the guy that kidnapped us." Now, I mean, sketches are sketches, but anyways, after that, the police then kind of put her in a protective custody type thing. They had her hide at a diner next door, I believe. Which, again, the 70s are a different time. And they went to find her car. And actually, when they found her car, it had been gutted and set on fire. Oh, if it wasn't the Zodiac Killer, there's a guy with some big-time issues. I mean, he actually went back to the car then and burned it.
I mean, the logical side of me wants to say, yeah, it could be him. The other side of me is screaming, it's him.
Yeah, right.
It just sounds too good to be true. Like, why would he go back and burn the fucking car?
I'm still trying to grasp that concept myself, because I even with remembering what I do of the movie, I don't remember that. And
well, and I kind of look at it like, I don't know why would he go back and burn it to begin with? Like, what is
only thing
unless he left some kind of evidence?
That's what I was thinking. Forensics, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing that I could.
The thing, though, right?
That's the only thing that I could suspect is, I mean, at that time they were fingerprinting, obviously, and that's about the only thing that they had.
But it wasn't. I mean, it was a guy looking at, right? Like, you had a fingerprint here, and it was somebody with like a microscope or Jesus, you know what I'm trying to say?
Magnifying glass,
right? I mean, yeah. I mean, you weren't like uploading it to a computer and finding a 99% match.
Yeah,
it was accurate, but they didn't have DNA and they didn't have stuff like that. Which, I mean, that's why I believe this guy hasn't been caught. I really don't think this guy's some kind of super genius. I mean, I think he's dead. We'll get to that, but I mean, I don't think I just think he's a product of his time. Like, he got lucky. He decided to be a psychopath in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, evidence is the only speculation I'd have, because if he used her tire iron or touched the wheel at all when he was doing it, or the hubcap or anything, because hubcaps were big at that time, over the top of steel wheels. That's the only,
or the car. He bent down and he put his hand on the car.
That is literally the only thing I've got. Other than that, she never states that he was in the car. I mean, unless this dude was some sort of, I got to be careful about how I word this, but
let it fly.
Yeah, let it go.
Well, I'm trying to not get us banned on Twitch, unless he was some sort of fetish freak and he returned to the scene to commit an act and left a DNA sample that way. If you catch where I'm going with this.
Sure.
And then he was like, oh, well, shit, hold on, and then light the thing on fire and let it go.
For sure.
I'm still more tied up in the fingerprint thing. Yeah, he did have his hands all over everything. So
I was just gonna say that's a stretch.
It'd be the most logical reason for burning everything down.
Even me making that statement, it's a stretch, because not once in anything that I researched, I don't know about Jamie, not once did anything actually sexual come up as far as the crimes being committed. There's something that
like the actual act. No.
Yeah. There's something that borderlines on it. It teeters on it in one of the later. It's actually one of the earlier instances that he may be tied to that we'll cover in a little bit. But that's about it. That's about the only thing that I personally found. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, I'm guessing it's one of those things where, like, the having the power over somebody is the sexual release for him. Like, there's psychopaths like that.
Yeah.
But as far as the actual, like, I don't believe there was, as far as we know, there was never like a rape or anything like that. I mean, it was just straight up cold-blooded murder. I mean, that was his thing.
Yep.
Which is uncommon, honestly. I mean, you think about a lot of serial killers, I feel like most of them have some sort of sexual assault aspect to them, right? I mean,
there's ulterior motive to a lot of it.
Common. It's not super common where it's just like, yep, boom, execution, done.
Yep. So does that cap off your Kathleen John's report?
Kathleen John's report. So she did survive, if you didn't
catch that.
People didn't catch that. I mean, she was never attacked, so to speak, by him. But
I mean, we can speculate that a lot of that had to do with the fact that she even had her daughter. If he spent that much time riding around, he might have had an affinity against killing a child, and, well, shit, all right, I'm in this position, what do I do now, kind of thing. Yep. Do I take them both and suffer that consequence, or so forth and so on?
And if you look at it, like, he said he wanted slaves, right? Like, do you want a kid slave? I mean, if you're talking just like manual labor, maybe you wouldn't want a kid. Maybe that's, especially a 10-month-old. I mean, what are they going to do?
Yep.
Scream?
It's the afterlife, Pan. Who knows?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So
it was his own projection of what he thought the afterlife would be like anyway. So
moving on, we have further communication. Throughout the rest of 1970, the Zodiac continued to taunt authorities with communication. On April 20th, 1970, the Zodiac wrote and mailed a letter stating, "My name is blank," followed by a 13-character cipher. He also went on to state that he was not responsible for the Park Station bombing at Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, which claimed the life of Sergeant Brian McDonald. He did add, though, that there is more satisfaction to killing a cop than a civilian because a cop can shoot back. Kind of plays back into what I said about today's times and concealed carry and such. The Zodiac also included a diagram for a bomb. He proclaimed that he intended to use it on a school bus. At the bottom of the diagram, he wrote Zodiac 10, San Francisco PD 0. On April 28, 1970, Zodiac sent a greeting card to the Chronicle. Written on the card was, "I hope you enjoy yourselves when I have my blast," followed by the Zodiac's cross and circle signature. On the back of the card, the Zodiac threatened to use bus bomb soon unless the newspaper published the full details that he chose to write. He also wanted to start seeing people wearing some nice Zodiac buttons. In a letter postmarked June 26, 1970, the Zodiac stated he was upset that he did not see people wearing Zodiac buttons. He wrote, "I shot a man sitting in a parked car with a .38. The Zodiac was possibly referring to the murder of Sergeant Richard Raditich a week earlier on June 19th. At 5:25 a.m., Raditich was writing a parking ticket in a squad car when an assailant shot him in the head with a .38 caliber pistol. Raditich died 15 hours later. San Francisco police deny the Zodiac was involved in this murder. It remains unsolved. Included in the letter were a Phillips 66 road map of the San Francisco Bay Area and a 32-character cipher. On the map, the Zodiac had drawn his cross symbol on the image of Mount Diablo. He claimed, in conjunction with the cipher, the two would lead to the location of a bomb that he had buried that was set to go off that fall. The cipher was never decoded, and the bomb was never located. The note was signed with Zodiac 12, San Francisco PD 0. In a letter to the Chronicle postmarked July 24th, 1970, the Zodiac took credit for Kathleen John's abduction, 4 months after the incident. In a July 26, 1970 letter, the Zodiac paraphrased a song from the Mikado, adding his own lyrics about making a quote-unquote little list of the ways he planned to torture his slaves in paradise. The letter was signed with a large exaggerated cross and circle symbol and a new score, Zodiac Killer 13, San Francisco Police Department 0. A final note at the bottom of the letter stated, "P.S. The Mount Diablo code concerns radians plus number of inches along the radians." In 1981, a close examination of the radian hint by Zodiac researcher Gareth Penn led to the discovery that a radian angle, when placed over the map per Zodiac's instructions, pointing to the locations of Zodiac's attacks. I'm not saying that name on stream, but thanks for the follow. We appreciate it.
So, hey, let me interrupt you for a second. I should have done a better job of this, I admit. As you're going through these letters, I have these letters on my screen.
Okay.
Would it be cool, or would you want me, like you said, the Kathleen John's letter? I can literally read that letter to you.
I mean, how long are they? Because I don't want to press on and have this be like a 3-hour stream either, and we're about halfway through. I know we have some shorter segments coming up, but
I mean, I just thought they were interesting. Like the Kathleen John letter isn't very long. I thought it'd be good to.
Yeah, I'm curious. Read it. I'm curious.
Yeah, let me bust through this, and then you can go through and read them if you want to.
That works. Yep.
So, On October 7th, 1970, the Chronicle received a 3x5-inch card signed by the Zodiac with the Zodiac Killer symbol and a small cross reportedly drawn with blood. The card's message was formed by pasting words and letters from an edition of the Chronicle, and 13 holes were punched across the card. Inspectors Armstrong and Toshi agreed it was quote-unquote highly probable that the card did in fact come from the Zodiac. That's all I've got for that one. If you want to start reading, I'll try to pull them up here. And
you guys still hear me?
Yeah,
I gotcha.
Okay, I got a little lag there, so I was sure. So started with like the button letter cipher one. The letter says, "This is the Zodiac speaking. I have become very upset with the people of San Fran Bay Area. They have not complied with my wishes for them to wear some nice Zodiac buttons." And every time he says Zodiac, he puts the little symbol in there. He doesn't actually write Zodiac.
Excuse me.
Except for in the top where it says this is the Zodiac speaking. He says, "I promise to punish them if they did not comply by annihilating a full school bus. But now school is out for the summer, so I punished them in another way. I shot a man sitting in a parked car with a 38. And then, like Paul said, Zodiac 12, SFPD 0.
While
and
you
puts a cipher on the bottom."
While you're reading these, I'm going to pull them up on stream so that they can see them.
Okay. So I'm going to go to Kathleen John's letter then. We know when you got it up.
Got it.
And I'll buzz from them. They're all pretty short, to be honest. They're all kind of short little letters. Seemed like he was a fan of putting them on like postcards even.
Yeah.
So the Kathleen John's letter says, "This is the Zodiac speaking. I'm rather unhappy because you people will not wear some nice Zodiac buttons. I now have a little list, starting with the woman and her baby that I gave a rather interesting ride for a couple of hours one evening a few months back that ended in my burning her car where I found them." So kind of as we referred to before, I mean, how would he know this stuff?
Yeah.
Unless he was there.
Yeah.
Just guess. So then the little list letter.
Being that you will not wear some nice Zodiac buttons, how about wearing some nasty Zodiac buttons? Or any type of Zodiac buttons that you can think up. If you do not wear any type of Zodiac buttons, I shall, on top of everything else, torture all 13 of my slaves that I have waiting for me in paradise. Some I shall tie over ant hills and watch them scream and twitch and squirm. Others I shall have pine splinters driven under their nails and then burned. Others shall be placed in cages and fed salt beef until they are gorged. Then I shall listen to their pleas for water, and I shall laugh at them. Others will be hung by their thumbs and burn in the sun. It looks like it's kind of hard to decipher. Then I will rub them down with deep heat to warm them. Others I shall
Sick.
Others I
mean, obviously they do that, but like,
yeah, it's kind of hard to read a lot of this without risking catching a ban, because I did kind of deep dive.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll put them up here for you guys anyway. So, and then the Halloween card from your secret pal. I feel it in my bones. You ache to know my name, and so I'll clue you in. And then he included a little message. 14, but then why spoil the game? Happy Halloween from the Zodiac. Oh, I mean, this dude's something.
Yeah. Choose.
But you want to take it away with the letter to Paul Avery?
Yep. So then another letter came in, and This one's kind of, I think you read that one. I don't know, it's kind of hazy here. But anyways, October 27th, 1970, Chronicle reporter Paul Avery, who had been one of the main people covering the Zodiac case in the San Francisco Chronicle, he received a Halloween card signed with the letter Z and the Zodiac's cross circle symbol. Handwritten on the card was a note, "Peekaboo, you are doomed." The threat was taken seriously and received a front page story in the Chronicle, which, you know, that's what this guy wants. So soon after receiving this letter, Avery received an anonymous letter alerting him to the similarities between the Zodiac's activities and the unsolved murder of Sherry Jo Bates, which had occurred 4 years earlier at the City College in Riverside in the greater Los Angeles area. So if you think about it, this is from 1970. That murder occurred in 1966, which would be before any of the confirmed Zodiac killings.
Yeah, and I do touch on that one later.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I had. He reported his findings in the Chronicle on November 16th, 1970.
Yep. So we have further Zodiac. Are you done? Are you good to go there, Jim?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So next up we have the Riverside Murder. And this is the one that will kind of outline what happened to Sherry Jo Bates on. On October 30th, 1966, Sherry Jo Bates, 18, had spent the evening at the Riverside Community College Library Annex, which closed at 9 p.m. Around 10:30 p.m., neighbors had reported hearing a scream. The next day, Sherry's body was discovered between two houses that were set to be demolished as part of planned campus renovation. Having been stabbed and beaten to death, the only evidence found was that the spark plug wires had been pulled off of her distributor cap on her Volkswagen, and a man's Timex watch that had stopped shortly after midnight. Another odd letter became the subject of debate and controversy, and its origins have remained a mystery for more than 4 decades. On November 1st, 1967, a letter to the editor states, "Your human interest story from October 1st, 1967, about Sherry, the RCC girl that was killed, was very interesting. Perhaps a story about the boy that killed her could be more rewarding. If people were to read of the life of a boy that turned killer, they might stop to think about the lives of their own children. Are we laying the blueprint for another killer? Might be one of the questions brought to mind by such a story. With hope, Patricia Houts, fellow student." The mysterious letter, authored on a typewriter, followed the receipt of 3 anonymous handwritten letters sent in April of 1967. The 3 letters were sent to the local Riverside newspaper, the local Riverside police, and to the victim, Sherry Jo Bates' father. Through handwriting analysis, detectives were able to deduce that the Zodiac was responsible for the 3 April letters. This led authorities to believe that the Zodiac was responsible for the 1966 murder of Sherry Jo Bates. Of the letters, 2 of them stated Bates had to die, there will be more. And only one of them stated she had to die, there will be more. There was a 4th envelope postmarked the same day as the 3 letters, referring to the November 1st letter, but no one can account for the contents of the envelope or explain why it was filled with the material related to the Bates case. No one can account for the contents of the envelope or explain why it was filed with the material related to the Bates case. The envelope was addressed to press with a second word crossed out. 3512 14th Riverside, and had attention editor written on the bottom. The Houts letter went unexplained for many years, leading to wild conspiracies such as the hard Z in the name linking it to the Zodiac. However, in 2010, someone was able to contact the real Patricia Houts, and through handwriting samples, it has been unofficially confirmed that she was in fact the author of the typed letter. So basically what they did is they matched up the print from the envelope that the letter was sent with, and she had provided some of her old textbooks that she still had with her handwriting from around that time. And looking at the two, they were able to confirm that she did, obviously unofficially, because it wasn't a law enforcement officer that did this, that she was the author of that letter. She has stated that it was one of many that she wrote the editor in request for them to cover more of the story out of curiosity, and that she was very vocal on many issues around that time.
I don't know, man.
Me neither.
And there's still more.
Yep.
So then we move on to the Lake Tahoe disappearance. So another postcard received by San Francisco Chronicle addressed to Paul Avery again, the same guy from the previous letter that we talked about, or one of the previous letters, the Halloween card. So on March 22nd, 1971, he received another letter from the Zodiac. They claim responsibility for the disappearance of a woman by the name of Donna Lass 6 months prior to this. Made from a collage of advertisements and magazine lettering, it featured a scene from an advertisement for Forest Pine condominiums and the text, Sierra Club sought victim 12, peek through the pines, pass Lake Tahoe areas, and around in the snow. The Zodiac's cross circle symbol was in both the place of its usual return address and the lower right section of the front face of the postcard. So this Lass, she was a nurse at the Sierra Tahoe Hotel in Lake Tahoe. She worked until about 2 a.m. on September 6, 1970, treating her last patient at 1:40 a.m. Later that same day, both Lass's employer and her landlord received phone calls from an unknown male falsely claiming Lass had left town due to a family emergency. Lass was never found. To this day, she's never been found. What appeared to be a gravesite was discovered near the Claire Tappan Lodge in Northern California on Sierra Club property, but an excavation yielded only a pair of sunglasses. No evidence has been uncovered to connect the last disappearance with the Zodiac Killer definitively.
No, we lost Bill.
He's probably been holding it for a long time.
Well, he completely disappeared. He didn't just black out, so I think he might have crashed.
Yeah, I could have. Anyways.
We'll keep trucking anyway. He can join back up on us.
Yeah, so just another, I mean, like those texts, the Sierra Club sought victim 12, peek through the pines, past Lake Tahoe areas and around the snow. I mean, they're not really, nobody really knows what that all means. I mean, it's just kind of, if you pull up that one on the website, I mean, it's like a picture with just like random, around in the snow is upside down in the picture. Peek through the pines and past Lake Tahoe areas are kind of like underneath each other. Sought victims. I mean, they're just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
I guess they probably mean something to him, unless, like we said before, unless he's just screwing with people, and we look too far into it.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
So
we'll try to crank out some more here. We're nearing the end of our list, and I do have two other things to cover on top of what we have here. So the Santa Barbara murders. One thing I do want to mention before we move forward is Ross the Boss said the last story confused him. I think he was referring to mine. If you want to put some detail into what confused you, we can definitely try to shed some light on that situation. But without any information, we can't do a whole lot. So the Santa Barbara murders. On Senior Skip Day, June 4th, 1963, Robert Domingos, 18, and Linda Edwards, 17, were brutally gunned down in an attack. Now, I paraphrased a lot of this one to save a lot of time. There is a lot more to it that I'll kind of paraphrase outside of this too. But I'm given like the bare minimum evidence on this. Robert was shot 11 times and Linda was shot 8 times by a .22 caliber long rifle. After the killing, the murderer set out to drag both bodies to a nearby shack, where he cut open Linda's bathing suit top and laid her on top of Robert. Both spent .22 rifle casings and unspent rounds were found inside of the shack. They would later match up with a brand mentioned by the Zodiac that he used to murder both Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, which was the Western Super X brand. However, it's not widely believed that the Zodiac was responsible for the string of murders predating the Lake Herman Road murders. There isn't much similarity to link them together, let alone they're not to his style. Though he did attempt to take responsibility for them, saying things like, "I do have to give them credit for stumbling across my Riverside activity, but they're only finding the easy ones. There are a hell of a lot more down there." If he had any connection to the 1966 Riverside murder, then this typed confession letter mailed on November 29th, 1966, also boasted that she is not the first and will not be the last. So, I'm going to pull over some imagery here. Just to give you guys a look at this. This is kind of the lay of the land on that specific murder. This is the beach area where the two were enjoying their senior skip day. The bodies were dragged from 30 feet from the point where they fell to the shack, and their car was up here. I guess this is kind of like a ravine right through here. It's a downhill to the beach side. And a lot of the speculation on this is that there was another string of murders that happened around this time. They killed a man staying in a camper in the area that during a robbery, and 2 gentlemen were actually sentenced to death, life in prison or death, as a result of this. The third, who they referred to as by nickname of Sandy, was never found. They did find some clothes that kind of tied in with who they possibly think Sandy could be. And I'm kind of skimming here, trying to find that right now. There it is. You're back.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with Discord, but it just made me update, and then here I am. So,
well, hopefully you were able to watch and kind of stay caught up.
Not really. I was trying to work on this shit.
So, this mysterious Sandy, the third gentleman that went by nickname, they discovered a vehicle stolen by the 3 youths, and inside received some clothing thought to have been owned by Sandy. The clothing contained the names Robert Kaufman and William Carr. One of the two they believed would be the true identity of Sandy. Now, skimming through this when I was researching, it never really said whether they caught Sandy or not. But I'm going to pull back over the illustration of Sandy, and he does kind of look like the widespread model of the Zodiac Killer. So, I mean, it's a definite possibility that he might be tied in. But we have yet to actually figure that out. You good, Pants? Ah, fuck, we lost Bill again.
I can't see anything. I can't see anything that you're pulling up, so.
Oh, okay.
It's stuck.
Yeah.
I wish I could.
Go ahead. Let's move on.
Yeah, because I don't know the Twitch. So what I have here is the final Zodiac letter, and I say that not definitively. There's a few letters after this that are rumored to be from him, and actually one more that I actually just found out about that says it's from him, but I guess it was never confirmed. So the last confirmed letter from the Zodiac After the Pines letter, which was the one about the last from the Tahoe incident, the Zodiac remained silent for nearly 3 years. And then on January 29th, 1974, the San Francisco Chronicle received a letter from the Zodiac once more, praising William Friedkin's 1974 film, The Exorcist, which I'm sure most of us have seen. And the Zodiac said, "It's the best satirical comedy I have ever seen." That was a direct quote, which, yikes. The letter also included a snippet of a verse from comedic opera The Mikado and ended it with the statement, quote, "P.S. If I do not see this note in your paper, I will do something nasty, which you know that I'm capable of," end quote. And then it said, "Me, 37, SFPD 0." So that's where the 37 comes from. That he said he had 37 victims that are not confirmed. But
I don't necessarily think, because it seems like he's going up with correspondence. I don't know that their speculation is necessarily correct. I'm wondering if he's not counting, for lack of better terms, the time he pulls the wool over the sheep's eyes.
Yeah.
Into that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think he's necessarily counting murders, but the way he talked about the Santa Barbara murders and how they're starting to stumble across what he did in Riverside and only uncovering the easy ones, it could easily be speculated that he is in fact counting bodies at that point.
Yeah. I mean, there's definite reasoning for either side of the argument.
Yeah.
You know,
moving on,
especially
letters. Yeah, for sure.
So
moving on to letters of suspicious authorship. Of further communications sent by the public to members of the news media. Some contained similar characteristics of previous Zodiac writings. The Chronicle received a letter postmarked February 14th, 1974, informing the editor that the initials for the Symbionese Liberation Army spelled out an Old Norse word meaning kill. However, the handwritings were not authenticated and as the Zodiacs. A letter to the Chronicle postmarked May 8th, 1974 featured a complaint that the movie Badlands was murder glorification and asked the paper to cut its advertisements. Signed only A Citizen, the handwriting, tone, and surface irony were all similar to early Zodiac communications. The Chronicle subsequently reviewed an anonymous letter postmarked July 8th, 1974, complaining of their publishing the writings of the anti-feminist columnist Marco Spinelli. The letter was signed The Red Phantom, and in parentheses included Red with Rage. The Zodiac's authorship of this letter is debated. Did you have something you wanted to add in, Jamie?
Well, just so when I'm looking at these letters here, and the first two you're talking about, the Symbionese Liberation Army.
Yep.
That one to me could be his handwriting. It looks kind of similar, and that one is just signed a friend, like you had said. And then the other one was the talking about the Badlands. That one I would say could be as well. It's kind of messy handwriting.
Okay.
But then I'm looking at the Red Phantom one, and it's completely different handwriting. I mean, it's not even. It's almost like elegant. I would venture to say, like some of the C's and the M's have like really long, nice tails on them. Unless the guy was completely fudging the handwriting in the first 20 letters, I don't see how this could be. I mean, it's like nice, almost like I would say borderline calligraphy.
Okay.
I mean, it's like really, really nice handwriting.
Interesting.
It actually looks kind of like your handwriting, which is
Yikes.
kind of makes me a little nervous.
I mean, I wasn't born until 87, so you're safe.
So you say.
I mean...
Yeah, so then the only other letter, I don't know if, did you cover the, or was it? It's called the Top Secret Zodiac Letter from 1978.
Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to help Bill troubleshoot here. He's having issues. It's trying to update every single time. I told him to go ahead and close it out through Task Manager and try that way.
Yeah.
Completely reboot the program. So I don't know, because this is one of the sections. There was so little information on each of it that I took. Yeah. I just took this right off of Wikipedia. So a letter dated April 24th, 1978 was initially deemed authentic, but it was declared a hoax less than 3 months later by 3 experts. Dave Toschi, the SFPD homicide detective who had worked the case since the Stein murder, was thought to have forged the letter because author Armistead Maupin believed the letter to be similar to quote-unquote fan mail he received in 1976, which he believed was authored by Toschi. While he admitted to writing the fan mail, Toschi denied forging the Zodiac letter and was eventually cleared of any charges. The authenticity of this letter remains unverified.
Yeah, so I have the letter here. I never heard about this letter. I always thought the last letter was the one from 1974 about the Exorcist movie. And so on that website, again, I have that letter that you're referring to here. The only discrepancy that I have is on here. It says it's postmarked May 2nd, but I mean, I think you said April 28th. So I mean, that's close enough that it could just be a Wikipedia thing that somebody wrote it wrong.
Well, are you showing postmarked or dated?
It says postmarked.
Okay, so the letter was dated April 24th.
Okay. I don't have that date anywhere on this letter, but it could have been like on the front of it or something.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? But it says, Dear Channel 9, semicolon. So he's already using better punctuation than the normal Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
This is the Zodiac speaking. You people in LA are in for a treat. In the next 3 weeks, you are finally going to have something good to report. I have decided to begin killing again. Please hold the applause. Nothing is going to happen until I do. You people just won't let me have it any other way. I plan to kill 5 people in the next 3 weeks. Number 1, Chief Piggy Daryl Gates. Number 2, ex-Chief Piggy Ed Davis. Number 3, Pat Boone. His theocratic crap is an obscenity to the rest of the world. 4, also Eldridge Cleaver, and then he just proceeds to drop an N-bomb, which I am not going to do.
No.
But he said those people got to get their 20% quota after all. And Susan Atkins, the Judas of the Manson family, she's going to get hers now. Hey, you actors, this is your lucky break. Remember, whoever plays me has his work cut out for him. See you in the news, and then signed with the Zodiac symbol. To me, the handwriting is messy, but it still doesn't match to me. It's not the same. Like, you know, you saw the original letters. They're really, like, I read that one. I mean, you heard me read it. I didn't struggle like hardly at all.
Yeah.
And with the first letters, it was like, we're both looking at it going, what the hell does that say? So I don't know. I mean, it kind of sounds like him, I guess, but like you said, it was unverified. Yep. That was kind of, it was a letter too that nobody could ever say for sure.
Yep. So on March 3rd, 2007, an American Greetings Christmas card sent to the Chronicle, postmarked 1990 in Eureka, had recently been discovered in their photo files by editorial assistant Daniel King. Inside the envelope with the card was a photocopy of 2 U.S. postal keys on a magnet keychain. The handwriting on the envelope resembles Zodiac's print, but was declared inauthentic by forensic document examiner Lloyd Cunningham. However, not all Zodiac experts agree with Cunningham's analysis. There is no return address on the envelope, nor is his crossed circle signature. to be found. The card itself is unmarked. The Chronicle turned over all the material to the Vallejo Police Department for further analysis. And that's the last one I have there.
Interesting. So, if you got nothing else, then I guess I move on to the current status of the investigations.
Yep.
So, in April 2004, the San Francisco Police Department marked the case as inactive. I mean, because at that point, even if you're not counting, so you say count correspondence, right? I mean, you're going on, I don't know, my math's terrible, but 30 years?
40.
40, okay.
Yeah,
even worse.
About 34 years. Because the first murder that he claimed was it the 66 or 63
he claimed
murder?
68.
The first verified, but if we go back to the Riverside murders, it was either 66 or 63.
Yeah, 66, I think. But either way, I mean, long time, right? I mean, you have nothing. You have no correspondence. You have no new murders that you can attribute to his MO.
Yep.
Something like that. So they marked the case as inactive, citing caseload pressure and resource demands, effectively closing the case. However, they did reopen the case sometime before March 2007. I'm assuming pressure from the public, sounds like, would have made that happen.
Yeah.
The case is still open to this day in Napa County and in the city of Riverside. And kind of the latest development that I had found was that in May 2018, the Vallejo Police Department announced their intention to attempt to collect the Zodiac Killer's DNA from the back of stamps he used during his correspondence. The analysis by a private laboratory is expected to check the DNA against GED match. It's hoped the Zodiac Killer may be caught in a similar fashion to the Golden State Killer, as we referenced before, Joseph James D'Angelo. In May 2018, a Vallejo police detective said the results were expected in several weeks. However, to date, no results have been reported. And I couldn't find anything definitive, but I feel like I listened to a podcast in the last week or so that reported on it. And I think, again, disclaimer, this is just what I'm remembering. I feel like they did try to test and there wasn't enough, or it just wouldn't work, or something along those lines. But basically what they wanted to do was test his DNA against like familial DNA.
Yeah.
And try to find, like, that's how they found the Golden State Killer, is they narrowed it down like 3 brothers and whatever.
Yeah, didn't they do it through like 23andMe or one of those genealogy sites?
Yeah. One of his family members did the 23andMe, and because they had that evidence still, and they ran it through the same program, they were able to catch him.
Yeah.
There was actually a guy here where I live, actually not
unreal,
like an hour north from me. Unbelievable. That the same thing happened to. I believe he committed a murder in like 1976 or something like that.
So if it's the one I'm thinking of, they had found her body in that town about an hour north of you, but he and his current wife were actually living like Iowa or something, weren't they?
I don't know. I don't think we're talking about the same case.
Okay.
The one I'm talking about, the guy's like 80 years old, and
yeah,
maybe I just don't know the latest developments. But from what I remembered was that they had found it matched between like 2 brothers, and they ended up, because your trash is public, you can take trash off the curb. They ended up taking trash and matching it to this guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be. I haven't looked into the case in a while, so it could be something.
I might be getting 2 cases crossed, because I know they found it last winter. I had read a report about something where they had found the body of a woman in a frozen creek or something, and a guy had brought her from like Iowa all the way over to here to dump the body. Oh,
yeah, the one that I'm talking about was like, it was like 40 years ago. They found the bodies right away, but they just never knew who did it.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know
raped.
if I'm crossing that one with the one you're talking about, but I do remember
could be.
That dude looked creepy as fuck. And I do remember seeing like his arrest picture and all of that. And
yeah, she had been sexually assaulted, and that's where they matched the DNA, was from that.
Yeah.
From the same thing from we were talking about the genealogy thing.
Yeah, your mom says it's not the same one. So
okay,
I'm just mixing the two. But I thought, but yeah, it was a long-standing cold case anyway. So does that wrap you up on that one?
That's it.
Alrighty, I'm gonna move on with author Leigh Allen.
Yeah, this one. Looking into it, I mean, this guy seems. I mean, he's a pretty good candidate, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it seems like he's kind of the main suspect. A lot of people think.
Yeah. So Robert Graysmith's book Zodiac advanced author Leigh Allen as a potential suspect based on circumstantial evidence. Allen had been interviewed by police from the early days of the Zodiac investigation and was the subject of several search warrants over a 20-year period. In 2007, Graysmith noted that several police detectives described Allen as the most likely suspect. However, in 2010, Tashi stated that all evidence against Allen ultimately turned out to be negative. On October 6, 1969, Allen was interviewed by Detective John Lynch of the Vallejo Police Department. Allen had been reported in the vicinity of Lake Berryessa attack against Hartnell and Shepard on September 27, 1969. He described himself scuba diving at Salt Point on the day of the attacks. Allen again came to police's attention in 1971 when his friend Donald Cheney reported to police in Manhattan Beach, California, that Allen had spoken of his desire to kill people and use the name Zodiac and secure a flashlight to a firearm for visibility at night. According to Cheney, this conversation occurred no later than January 1st, 1969. Jack Malinoa of the Vallejo Police Department subsequently wrote Allen had received an other than honorable discharge from the U.S. Navy in 1958 and had been fired from his job as an elementary school teacher in March of 1968 after allegations of sexual misconduct with students. He was generally well regarded by those who knew him, but he was also described as fixating on young children and angry at women. He apparently never had a girlfriend or wife. In September of 1972, San Francisco police obtained a search warrant for Allen's residence. In 1974, Allen was arrested for sexually assaulting a 12-year-old boy. He pled guilty and served 2 years imprisonment. Vallejo police served another search warrant at Allen's residence in February of 1991. 2 days after Allen's death in 1992, Vallejo police served another warrant and seized property from Allen's residence. Other evidence existed against Allen, albeit entirely circumstantial. A letter sent to the Riverside Police Department from Bates's killer was typed with a Royal typewriter with an Elite type, the same brand found during the February 1991 search of Allen's residence. He owned and wore a Zodiac brand wristwatch. He lived in Vallejo and worked minutes away from where one of the Zodiac victims lived and from where one of the killings had taken place. In 2002, San Francisco Police Department developed a partial DNA profile from the saliva on stamps. This kind of covers what you were talking about, of the Zodiac's letters. SFPD compared this partial DNA to the DNA of Arthur Leigh Allen. A DNA comparison was also made with the DNA of Don Cheney, who was Allen's former close friend and the first person to suggest Allen may be the Zodiac Killer. Since neither test result indicated a match, Allen and Cheney were excluded as the contributors of the DNA. Retired police handwriting expert Lloyd Cunningham, who worked on the Zodiac case for decades, added, "They gave me banana boxes full of Allen's writing, and none of his writing even came close to that of the Zodiac. Nor did the DNA extracted from the envelopes on the Zodiac letters come close to Arthur Leigh Allen's." While police often use document examiners during investigations, court rulings on the scientific validity of handwriting analysis have been mixed to negative findings. So,
I mean, to me, that's the guy. I don't know.
Well, and I have here, before I switch over, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, a picture of Arthur Leigh Allen.
Yikes.
So, I mean, obviously he's older in that picture when he's being suspected. That's probably one of his final mug shots. He's older in that picture, but there's definitely probability that he could match the sketches. I had found an earlier picture of him, and by the time I went back to try to find it, before I realized what it was, I couldn't find it again. But I have two articles here I'd like to touch on too. They're two possible answers to who the Zodiac Killer may have been. The first one, experts think they have finally unmasked the Zodiac Killer, and it's got a picture included with it, so I'm going to throw that over real quick before I read the article. As you can see in this picture, it definitely looks like, I'd say out of everybody we've looked at, it's definitely the most comparable to the most noted sketch of the Zodiac Killer. I'll maximize it here just so you can get the full picture. But this article states, experts think they finally unmasked the Zodiac Killer nearly 50 years after the murder spree that rocked America. The murderer, who is responsible for shooting and stabbing 5 people to death in the 1960s, has managed to keep his identity a mystery for years, but claims he has hid his name in a series of cryptic messages. No one has ever been brought to justice for the crimes that took place in Northern California. However, a former LAPD homicide detective and a cold case expert believe that they've made a breakthrough that could finally bring someone to justice. Sal La Barbera and Ken Means think the person responsible could be Ross Sullivan, who was the original suspect in one of the murders. A new documentary called Zodiac Killer, Case Closed, shows the duo revisiting the murder of Sherry Jo Bates, an 18-year-old who was found stabbed to death. Sullivan, who would be in his 70s by now, was arrested in Santa Barbara in 1968 after displaying bizarre behavior. He was cuffed near to where the murder took place and worked at a library close to where Bates's body was found. Former colleagues described him as quiet and noted that he always wore army clothing, including military boots. One piece of evidence the experts believe linked Sullivan to the Bates murder is a footprint of army boots found at the scene. Description of the killer at the time bore a striking resemblance to Sullivan, including the haircut and glasses. But perhaps the most convincing piece of information is that Sullivan was an English student who researched cryptology before the killings took place. Means said, I think as time goes by, time helps you because loyalties change, alliances change, friendships change. I think time, especially in a cold case investigation, is an ally and it helps you solve cases. The documentary features a supercomputer which helps crack the code of the serial killer's notes, something no expert has been able to do. Sullivan's current whereabouts are unknown. He could be dead. But if that's not the case, these experts believe the Zodiac Killer still walks among us somewhere. The second of the articles state, why do people think this man could be the Zodiac Killer? We take a look at the signs that some say point to Robert Ivan Nichols so far. After the identity of a mysterious man was revealed, rumors are swirling that he was the Zodiac Killer, one of America's most elusive and infamous serial killers. Members of the U.S. Marshals and local police held a press conference in Ohio, go figure. It's going to be Ohio with how much you love that place. On Thursday.
Unbelievable. Armpit of America.
No offense to our downloads in Ohio on the audio podcast. we appreciate you.
All offense. I don't care. Ohio never listens. I'm salty because my team sucks.
Yeah, that's it. Woo Buckeyes. Just to see you stare at me with daggers coming out of your eyes. Members of the U.S. Marshals
I can't hate you. They're good.
Members of the U.S. Marshals and local police held a press conference in Ohio Thursday to reveal that they managed to uncover the real identity of a 65-year-old man who was living under a false name when he committed suicide in his East Lake home in 2002. The man had been using the name and identity of Joseph Chandler III, a 9-year-old boy who died in the 1940s, for decades before he died. But on Thursday, police revealed his real name was Robert Ivan Nichols. Some are now speculating that Nichols could be the Zodiac Killer, who claimed to have killed 37 people and terrorized Northern California with 5 brutal murders and sent coded ciphers to the media in the late 60s and early 70s. A reporter even asked U.S. Marshal Peter Elliott during a press conference Thursday if Nichols was the Zodiac Killer, in which he replied he couldn't say for sure. Here's what we know so far. Nichols went missing in 1965, WJW in Cleveland reported. That's 3 years before the first murder linked to the Zodiac. On December 20th, 1968, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were shot to death in Lover's Lane in Benicia, California. The last killings attributed to the killer were in 1969, but his letters and ciphers taunting police and the media continued until 1974. Nichols changed his identity to that of Chandler in 1978. That same year, he began living and working in the Cleveland area. It's not clear where Nichols was or what he was doing during the years that the Zodiac was active. Online sleuths have pointed out a resemblance between Nichols and the existing sketches and descriptions of the killer who called himself the Zodiac. The Zodiac was described as heavy-set and beefy, 5'8" to 6 foot tall, and weighing possibly 200 pounds or more. He was also described as a white man between the ages of 35 and 45, with short brown hair and thick framed glasses. Photos and police descriptions of Nichols show that he would have fit the profile of the Zodiac almost perfectly. Photos of a young Nichols revealed at Thursday's press conference show a beefy man with short brown hair, and his photo even resembles the last one police sketch of the Zodiac, or at least one police sketch of the Zodiac. They appear to have the same fullness of lips and eyebrows, as well as similar eye shaping, forehead lines, and facial structure. Nichols was 5'7", although the Zodiac, at his shortest estimate, is believed to be 1 inch taller. He was known to wear wing walker boots, which have a bit of platform. I'm going to pull over quick a comparison of photos between James Nichols' last known photograph. I don't know if it's like a ID photograph or what, but it'll be side by side with the popular sketch. The article goes on to state handwriting. The Zodiac ciphers and letters to the media fueled his notoriety. On July 31st, 1969, the Zodiac Killer sent out letters to 3 local publications: the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald. In each letter, he also gave 1/3 of a cipher, explaining that he sent the other 2 parts of the same cipher to the editors of the other papers. He wrote, "I want you to print this cipher on the front page of your paper. In this cipher is my identity. If you do not print this cipher by the afternoon of Friday the 1st of August, 1969, I will go on a kill rampage Friday night. I will cruise around all weekend, killing lone people in the night, and then move on to kill again, until I end up with 12 people over the weekend." Each of the letters sent to publications were signed with a symbol, a circle, and a cross through it, which we've covered. Online this week, people were quick to post samples of Nichols' handwriting, pointing out any similarities to the Zodiac's. And it's got a Twitter link here I'm going to pull up. And I didn't look at this. And the tweet's unavailable. So, that's sad to see.
That's interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
I had thought that the Arthur Lee Allen guy for me was always.
I'm definitely not done. There's a few more short tidbits here.
Okay.
Touching on the handwriting, it says online sleuths had pointed out that Nichols' letter spacing and tendency to misspell mirrors the Zodiac to some degree. He was ready to flee, it states. Nichols was clearly hiding from someone or something as he lived under a stolen identity. He reportedly kept a suitcase packed and ready in his apartment at all times in case he needed to leave town. He also reportedly told acquaintances they are getting close. The Associated Press reported without giving any context. Press accounts describe him as a loner who wouldn't let anyone get too close to him. He was cryptic. Nichols appeared to be cryptic and seemed to have a knack for symbols. When he left his wife and sons the year before he went missing, he reportedly told her, "In due time, you'll know why." In 1965, he mailed an envelope to his son Philip, which contained no note and only a penny, according to the Associated Press. The gesture was the last contact he had with his family. The symbolism of the penny, if any, is unclear, but it was certainly odd, a puzzle, and the Zodiac definitely loved his puzzles. So, I mean, definite candidate there. For 100%. Me, anyway.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, that Arthur Lee Allen guy was always kind of the guy for me, but I guess after hearing about those two guys a little bit more, I definitely wouldn't rule them out. Audio or just a video?
A video.
Okay. Yeah, it's frozen on mine too. So yeah, I just had a couple more in summation. I guess a couple people that kind of had become.
Oh, no, he completely
had to ski.
Did you restart? Your video completely dropped out on me. Oh, there you're back now.
Okay. So one of the other kind of popular suspects really lightly, because I mean a lot of people were never even like looked at by police. It was just, I shouldn't say not looked at seriously, but it was just kind of public said, oh yeah, it could be this person. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was investigated for possible connections to the Zodiac Killer in 1996. He worked in Northern California at the time of Zodiac murders, and like the Zodiac, had an interest in cryptography, threatened the press into publishing his communications, which that's kind of where he became the Unabomber.
Yep.
He was ruled out by the FBI and San Francisco Police Department based on fingerprint and handwriting comparison, and by his absence from California on certain dates of known Zodiac activity. Was Bruce Davis, who was a member of the Charles Manson family cult. Convicted murderer, was investigated, but no evidence linking him to the Zodiac murders was discovered. A 1970 report by the California Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation stated that all male members of the Manson family had been investigated and eliminated as Zodiac suspects. Another one that I found too that kind of was interesting, and it was just because I had just watched an episode about the Black Dahlia like a week ago or something. Retired police detective Steve Hodel argues in his book that his father, George Hodel, was the Black Dahlia killer, whose victims include Elizabeth Short. The book led to the release of previously suppressed files and wire recordings by the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office of his father, which showed that the elder Hodel had indeed been a prime suspect in Short's murder. District Attorney Steve Kay subsequently wrote a letter which is published in the revised edition stating that if George Hodel were still alive, he'd be prosecuted for his crimes. In a follow-up book, Hodel argued a circumstantial case that his father was also the Zodiac Killer based upon a police sketch, the similarity of the style of the Zodiac letters to the Black Dahlia letters, and question document examinations. So that one just kind of caught my eye because I had just watched that episode where that guy was talking about his dad being the Black Dahlia killer.
Yeah.
And thought it was kind of interesting that maybe he would have been the Zodiac killer as well.
Yeah.
There's been a bunch more. You covered a few of them. I'm not going to cover all of them. We're getting kind of long in the tooth here.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of people that have been accused of. At one time I saw over the years the police department has investigated like 2,600 people or something like that in total as a suspect. So it's like, it could be anybody at this point. But me personally, I guess my opinion, I don't think the guy's still alive. I think he died in the 70s, honestly.
I mean, that one that I finished off reading out about kind of seems to be at least the most primary suspect for me. He disappears from his family months before the first murder. Anywhere between a couple months and a year. I don't remember what the exact dates were. But he just and leaves his wife and kids and disappears, and then leaves a life of secrecy after that. If it wasn't that, I'd like to know what in the hell he was running from, because he definitely was dodging something.
If he wasn't the Zodiac Killer, he was something. He was something that would be an interesting story for sure. So, I'd like to get Bill's opinion, but things not really working out.
Hopefully he's in the comments. He could at least say something. If not, and we'll find out afterwards.
Yeah.
But
either way, though, we appreciate everybody sticking with us, right?
For sure.
Issues tonight.
Well, like I told Ross in the comments, we're gonna do our best to try to nip this in the bud and figure everything out. Whether we change video chat platforms or something, try to get something. It would suck to do, especially with us just getting our audio locked down and everything, but we'll have to try to figure something out.
Unless something goes wrong, I should be able to start being hardwired in too, so that should help my end.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see, right? We won't know until we get there.
So we didn't talk about it at the beginning of the episode where I kind of intended to, but most of our hardcore viewers are still here. Due to the holidays coming up, we're only going to release one more episode here until after the first of the year. We'll have a special little surprise video out for you guys on YouTube, for our audio listeners as well. If you want to head over there and check it out, we're planning on doing something for you guys around Christmas that we can release. But other than that, we've got one more week left until we're going to take a hiatus for the holidays and focus on family and stuff a little bit. And then we're going to come back after the first of the year, maybe with a few little surprises too. We've kind of been hemming and hawing at adding another person, and I think especially for like times like this where we're having difficulties, at least maintaining 3 people will do a lot better to kind of hold the energy of the podcast so it doesn't completely fall out, and it'll give more than just like right now you have me and Jamie going back and forth. It'll give another perspective, and I think it'll make the podcast more enjoyable for you guys too. So if you feel like piping up and letting us know, Ross the Boss already said it's a great idea. I don't know if he's referencing that or if he's referencing breaking for the holidays, but we have a few people in mind. We've kind of got it set up to where we're going to put them through an interview process. And throughout the course of the beginning of the year, you guys might see a couple of different faces in here as we try them out, because part of the interview process is going to be to go live with us and kind of see how they interact with us as well as you guys. So hopefully we can get a fresh face in here for you guys. We lock in on somebody, and it's going to be somebody who can help boost this podcast to another level. Not that we're not hitting what we want for you guys, but it'll be another fresh perspective anyway. So, like I said, we're be watching for the video on YouTube. I don't know if Jamie has any ideas on what he wants to cover for next week yet or not. Did you have anything?
It's gonna be a surprise.
It's going to be a surprise. So if he happens to let me know, I'm going to try to get that out on our at least our Facebook page, kind of like I did this last week with this one. And we'll go from there. We'll see you guys next week. And if you don't happen to come back and see us next week, Merry Christmas to you and your family. Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever you choose to celebrate, do it with your family and appreciate every moment you got.
And by next week being a surprise, I mean, I just haven't thought about it yet. So look forward on Facebook. We'll put it up there. What's going to be probably tomorrow.
Sounds good to me.
Later tonight. So.
And hopefully you guys enjoy the new channel art. I forgot to address that too. I spent some time this last week putting together our Christmas theme here. So, but you got anything else there, Big Shoots?
The channel art makes us look gay.
Yikes! You can't. That's a hard G. You were all for
happy.
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 Oh, okay. That kind. I thought you were going a different direction with that.
No, man. Come on, I'm not like that.
Yikes.
All right.
But and don't forget our 7 viewers holding out. If you haven't yet, check us out. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Amazon Music and Audible. Head over there, hit us with some downloads, help show support there too if you can. Everything you do helps us out one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
It'll get us more exposure. So
I think for Apple Podcasts, and I'm assuming the other ones too, I think for Apple Podcasts is reviews. So if you wouldn't mind leaving a 5-star review, we'd appreciate it.
Even leaving a bad review. I mean, if you think we're dog shit, don't hold back. Reviews are reviews. Be honest with us, but it's going to help us in the long run know whether we got to change something or if we're doing good. And the good reviews can ultimately lead to sponsorship deals and stuff like that if we get enough exposure. So it'll just, in the long run, help us make this podcast better for you. It'll help us upgrade equipment and buy some better program software and stuff like that to improve the quality and really add to the longevity of what we're doing here with, without doing it with all of these technical difficulties. So, but if you got nothing else, I'm going to roll the outro.
Nothing else. Let's shut this shit down.
We'll head on out. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.